Welcome to Gunners R Us podcast, where we are positively Patreon. And we are positive. And today, if you're listening to this Patreon to kind of make yourself feel better after the Aston Villa away game that we lost 2-1 yesterday, then I'm going to try and make you feel a lot better about it, because we are positively Arsenal here on Gunners R Us. But I think there are positives to take from it. I think there's one negative that I'm a little unnerved by that I think we'll get into today, because it's been concerning me the last few weeks, but majority I'm going to try and keep this completely positive. So Aston Villa, Villa Park, this time last year, we won this game. I believe it was 2-0 at Villa Park. It was maybe our third game of the season. I remember it because Joe and I watched it in Wembley, like a bar in Wembley area, right before AEW. And very happy with that win. There was a very confident Villa fan that didn't sniff out how behind enemy lines he was in that bar that we were in, because everyone was Arsenal, and he was very vocal. But we won that game, and I think they were saying yesterday, since last year and this year and most of the year before that, so nearly 2 years now, they've only lost one game at home, and that was to us last year. And that includes Bayern Munich, PSG, Man City, Liverpool, obviously anyone in the Premier League. So it's a very tough place to go. It's going to be a tough place for everyone to go. So there is going to be dropped points for everyone. I would have thought. Again, there's two ways of looking at this: glass half empty, glass half full. The glass half full, I will say, when you look at the results that have gone against us this year, as far as away games, losses, Villa Park and Anfield, the draws away, Sunderland and Chelsea, and then a draw at home to City. If at the start of the season you said, if you named those games, I would have probably picked 2 losses and 4 draws, or 3 draws, maybe 4 draws. So that isn't in itself that worrying, because even if we were intending to win the league, I think teams that win the league lose those games and draw those games. It's about winning the games in between, and that's something that we haven't been able to keep doing recently in the last few years. Is we end up actually winning these games. You win at Villa Park, you win at Anfield. Or I don't think we've actually won at Anfield in the league for a while, but you go and win these big games away from home, but then the problem is you then go and lose at home to West Ham or Nottingham Forest or Leeds or someone that you don't expect to. Whereas this season, I think, if you actually look at it, I think there's a lot of it on Twitter. I think I read it out on the last Patreon and on the main feed. When you actually look at the wins, the ticks of 3 points, and then the handshake ties and the exits for the losses, they're so few and far between. And you win the first 2 games of the season, but then you lose to Anfield. But at least you won those first 2 games. You didn't draw one. Do you know what I mean? Like 6 points and 4 points are very different. Then you lose that one, but then you go on another streak from there where you pretty much don't draw until the Sunderland game. And I think in all competitions, it was something like maybe 15, 14 wins in a row, something like that. It was, fairly unheard of if you think about it. Like, well, obviously the City game is in there after a few games, but again, it was a draw. But I mean, overall, we went 18 games undefeated here. But in the last few weeks, we started to see, obviously, the draw to Sunderland, the draw to City, to Chelsea, and then this loss to Villa. And that's why we were talking about how important things like the Brentford game are. It's because when you get a result that isn't what you want, but kind of expected, like Sunderland away or Chelsea away or Villa Park, you have to win those next ones. So, for example, Brentford was very important to kind of not add more, icing on the cake of loss, a loss cake. You don't want to add too much onto it. And winning either side of it's huge. And the other huge one is not to draw too many games. We've seen in the last few years, we've seen people destroy their own title challenges because they only lose one game all season. We'll look at Liverpool, look at Arsenal. But you draw 10 to 15 games. Whereas if you just, if you took those 15 draws and you won 15 of them, if you won half of them, even less than half. So let's say you won 6 and then the other 9 you lost. You'd lose out on 9 points, but you would gain 18, So when you look at it that way, it's a gain of 9 more points. And that's having lost 9 games. So sometimes a draw and a loss are so close together, they're not as, for example, a win yesterday would have been huge, but a draw, as much as it hurts because, the undefeated streak, things like that, it's 1 point, and I know you can be on the glass half empty and look forward and go, well, we've lost the league by a point before. Yeah, but that point's going to come somewhere else. That's when you end up drawing at home to Wolves, next Saturday night. That's the kind of game that costs you league titles, not Villa Park away. I think even Gary Neville said it. He said, I wouldn't be concerned about losing at Villa Park because I've been in teams that have lost at Villa Park and won the league. That's a place that you kind of go, it'd be very good to win, but it's not guaranteed. There's no guarantees there. It's not a 3-pointer when you turn up. I think when it started, I said it on the podcast this week, very happy with a draw. I think if we win it, you start thinking, this team's special. But I think a draw, you go, yeah, it continues it on, keeps that kind of, with the results around us. Obviously, you keep Villa further away from us. They would have still been 6 points behind us as opposed to 3 now. And then City wouldn't have been 2 points behind. It would have been 3 because, City are very close to, us drawing a game and then winning a game to being top. And then once they get a lead, it's very tough to get hold of City. But so a draw would have helped in that way, but there's also another way of looking at it. Like I said, if we win the next 4 or 5 in a row, which I think we have to now, that's better than drawing 1 and then winning 2, then drawing another and then winning 2. I'd rather have lost that one but win 5 in a row. I think that kind of makes sense. But that's the way you look at it when it's glass half full. The glass half empty is to win leagues, you have to go and win really tough away games, and they're the ones that at the end of the season you go, that's how we knew we were going to win it. When we took it to City at home and won, but we didn't, we drew. When we went to Villa Park and we weren't at our best, we're at the end of a very tough week, but we got a result. We got 3 points. And we had the opportunity. That's the frustrating part, because as we go to break down this game, I think once we realised Saliba still hadn't made it and we were going to go with Nkapie with Timber as a centre-back and Ben White as a right-back, there's worries there because obviously Mosquera looks like it's going to be 8 weeks, so it could be mid-Feb. This is a guy who played, I think it was 50 straight games for Valencia without picking up an injury, and I don't know what we do. Honestly, one day someone's going to become a billionaire by just being able to figure out what Arsenal were doing to injure so many players at once. But same with Gyökeres. I don't think he'd missed a game for 4 years or something, and then he missed a month. I don't know what it is. It must be something. It's too common. It's too collective now to not be just bad luck. There's something wrong somewhere. I don't know what, but something is wrong somewhere that is causing this issue, and we need to get to the bottom of it because Mosquera out 8 weeks. Timber now has to, midweek we were looking at Timber looking to get a rest. He ends up playing 55, 60 minutes at centre-back now, so he didn't get that rest. Ben White was probably expected to play 60 minutes coming off of an injury. He ends up having to play all 90. Then you fast forward 3 days, short turnaround into a midday game. Again, if that was the Champions League, we would have to play it at 8 o'clock at night, give them a little extra rest, but there's no rules in the Premier League that stop us from playing at midday. So we go midday, away from home, and Ben White's now being asked, you're going to have to play another 90, not just another 60, not just, could you play another part, which is probably more beneficial to them. You now got to play another, 90 full minutes. And when we look forward with injuries and stuff like that, we got Bruges on Wednesday. I think Ben White's going to have to play. And then we got Wolves on Saturday night. I think Ben White's going to have to play. It's a really worrying kind of moment because there is a couple things we could do as we look forward, and we'll get to this further into the previews of the Patreon this week and the main show. But there's Salmon, who's on the bench that could play centre-back. It's asking a lot, but I mean, Club Bruges could be a good time to rest someone, whether it's Nkapie with Salmon and then right back you put Timber back there, or Timber and Ben White do 45 minutes each just to give them both a little rest. And then at Wolves, Saliba could be back and then Timber would have to come in or something back to right back. I don't know exactly how long Saliba will be. I genuinely thought he would have been available today on the Villa Park yesterday, but he wasn't. So immediately when you look at that back four, 3 of the 4 aren't the correct players or the correct position for what is our first choice for at the back. I very much and I betted on this, bet responsibly, Calafiori to get booked in this game because they knew that missing the Wolves game was a lot better than Everton away and the games that are coming after that, like Brighton and Crystal Palace. So I knew that was coming, but on top of everything, it almost compounded it. I understand the reasoning to do that, because you don't want him to get booked in the Wolves game and then he misses Everton, and at that point we might have more injuries or something. But all of a sudden, Calafiori doing that, which I'm sure kind of was in the plan, he now can't play against Wolves, which means we're short of a left back, which Skelly's going to have to play, which is absolutely fine. But Skelly also is going to have to play midweek, depending on if we have centre backs, because Calafiori might have to play centre back. So the knock-on effect is that people are now starting to play more 90 minutes than they had to because of injuries, suspensions, and other things. As it stands for next week, we have 4 available defenders of 9. Which is just madness. And all 4 of them are going to have played this weekend, and all 4 might have to play midweek. The only benefit is Calafiori got that, then went off on 70 minutes. He's probably going to have to play 90 minutes at Bruges, knowing he's going to have I think it's a 10-day rest after that. Because after Wolves, I think there is a 7-day rest, which is really helpful. We need to kind of get to that Wolves game, get the 3 points, maintain our lead at the top of the league, hopefully get a win away at Bruges with a rotated squad, and be top of the Champions League. And you can kind of go, all right, 7 days, get the rest in, get players back off of injury, almost nearly all of them, minus, obviously, Mascara's not going to be back for a long time now. But Jesus played a behind closed doors game against Man United yesterday. Saliba should be back by then. Trossard, there's talk that he went off injured yesterday. I don't think he was. I'll get to that in a moment. But we need to just get beyond this Wolves game. Ideally, it would have been with 3 points at Villa Park. But I mean, we talked about zooming out last week on the podcast on the main feed. But, to win the North London derby, to then win against Bayern Munich, draw against Chelsea, beat Brentford, but then lose to Villa, it takes a little edge off. But when you look at that, that's 10 points from a possible 15. You'd want that being closer to 12. Whereas maybe like a win to Villa but lose to Chelsea, or win against Chelsea and then lose to Villa, like I was talking earlier about, draws are killer. Because even if we're drawn against Villa, you'd much rather just beating Villa or Chelsea than draw both of them. It's 1 extra point. So we just need to start capping off these wins, turning draws into wins. And don't be afraid. I think we weren't afraid yesterday to an extent. There is a couple of things we'll get into, but it felt like we went for that win. We went, a draw's not good enough, we have to win. And that's what made the game so chaotic. But we'll get to that in a moment. The defence was what it was, as we've just mentioned. Rice was fit and ended up playing another 90, which is so worrying that we don't have anyone that seems to be able to. He seems so irreplaceable in that team. He's never going to get the rest. And I think he will on Wednesday, but you do fear for it because, I mean, we brought Norgard in and we all felt pretty good about it. 30-year-old, been in the Premier League a decent amount of time, captain of Brentford, probably going to be someone you can rely on in, a case of a crisis. Well, the crisis has been going for 2 months and he's hardly got a game other than the Carabao Cup, which I get it, because when you put someone on for 90 minutes in the Carabao Cup, it allows Zubimendi and Rice or someone like that to get a full week's rest, which is so important at this point. But how could he not have got game time yesterday? We obviously did change something in the last 10 minutes to kind of maybe make sure we didn't lose. Why wasn't Norgard a factor in there? Someone who's very good at defending and very good at kind of sniffing out danger. Someone who was probably more likely to put his body on the line than, unfortunately, what we saw Odegaard do in that last moment with Buendia. I don't know why. Obviously he doesn't fancy him, but why even make the bench? Because even when we have injuries, he's not bringing him on. So that's a slight worry. But Zubimendi, Rice and Odegaard in the middle. We have Eze out left, Saka, and then we start with Moreno, go with the hot hand. Moreno's played a lot of minutes, but he's almost undroppable at the minute based on his performance. I do not like Eze out left. I think we saw that earlier in the season already, that we tried it a couple of times to kind of fit him in with Odegaard. I think Eze has to play central. I think he can play maybe with Odegaard. I think he could play as like 2/8. For example, next week at Wolves, you could easily start Zubimendi with Eze and Odegaard and give Rice even more time off. So you could kind of like not even have him travel to Bruges and then don't start him and go with that. And then if we are kind of struggling to, maybe Wolves are giving us more than we anticipate, maybe you then bring him on later in the game and bring Eze off or Odegaard. But I don't like Eze out left. I know it's because Martinelli and Trossard come back from injury, so neither of them can kind of give him more than 20 plus minutes. But I just didn't like that balance, and I don't feel like he's in a game. And then obviously the goal that Villa eventually score is he switches off and he knows it. He drops to his knees. You can see it in his head. And it's because he's not a left, I know they're professional footballers and they play in multiple positions. He's played time at left, but he hasn't played as much time as people think he has on that left wing. If that's Martinelli or Trossard, that Cash isn't available there. That's why he trusts Martinelli so much, because of his defensive work. And he knew it. And I hope, obviously, I do, since the start, worry Arteta has an issue with Eze. With Liverpool, he kind of dug him out for missing a chance in his first game at Anfield. And he took him off at half time here. And I genuinely don't think it was, you let us down there, you're off. Eze knew that already. And also in the second half, Odegaard did plenty of things that cost us. And he didn't hook him or anything. So I think it was more of that. And Odegaard was in the game. I know a lot of people, some people had him down as the man of the match. Some people thought he was awful. I spoke about it the other week with the Chelsea game. I really love the tempo he starts. But when you see him on that field with Moreno type up front, it really does stinker last year. And you can feel it in the team. The energy's different. It's not as aggressive. It's a little bit softer. There's a lot of touches. There's a lot of possession that doesn't go anywhere. Looking for that right pass, moving that ball, touching it a lot. I think the thing that's made us really amazing this year, and the reason it's kind of felt different to last year, was Gyökeres up front and Eze. Eze being more direct, scoring goals from midfield. Yeah, he doesn't, keep possession like Odegaard. He doesn't do the pressing of Odegaard, but he's getting more assists. He's getting more goals. And Gyökeres, again, there's a whole new conversation on his first game back. I mean, this guy's not fully fit yet. He's just come back from injury. At Villa Park, there was that one with Rice knocks it across him with him in the middle. I mean, no one expected Rice to take that on first time. He's already 20 yards. He can't appear 20 yards ahead of himself out of nowhere. And more on Madueke at the back post, kind of not putting his foot on it and kind of dragging it back or something. But what made us so good was Gyökeres is so direct. He got doubled up on, which allowed Saka more time. And that's what Moreno doesn't do. Moreno, his movement's unbelievable. He's very involved in the game. And he's an unbelievable finisher. But the way we play feels very much, death by 1,000 cuts. And that's if we get a cut. Whereas Eze and Gyökeres, it's might touch the ball a third of that. But there's plenty of cuts. There's plenty of opportunities. And that's what I want us to get back to. And I there's a couple of worrying moments. Obviously, taking Eze off and not Odegaard. He could have brought Eze in the middle and put Trossard out wide, taking Odegaard off. And again, some people really liked Odegaard's performance, some people didn't. I think his shots were really good in this. This is something we've missed since he had the ankle injury last year. I think he was really good to a point, but then I would have taken him off or maybe tried Waneri in the middle or something along those lines. Something different. Because at some point you can see he is not going in for tackles coming off that meniscus injury straight after 2 collarbone injuries. You can tell maybe he's a little nervous of a challenge. When you're at Villa Park and you're late on, you're scrapping for a win or potentially lose. What you don't need is someone galloping around your own box, not wanting to make a tackle. Hence how Bendia gets that shot away with 7 or 8 guys jumping in, trying to stop it. And they're all on there, they're all down once that goes in. And he's kind of stood there and you think, oh, you could have got your foot. And I know everyone was worried about a penalty going against us, but it's not as bad as a goal, straight off the bat. You could still save a penalty, I don't know. There's something a little bit off there. And I just think that style, generally, when it's Moreno and Odegaard as opposed to Eze and Gyökeres, and I think everyone there is world class, and I think they're really good. And I think a mix and match will actually be really fun. Like Eze behind Moreno, we've seen works. We've seen Odegaard with Gyökeres looks really good. But I do not like that combination. Last year we got it with Moreno. We've had it with Havertz and Odegaard, and it's worked at times. But at times it has felt like, I think even seeing Ben White, as much as we got nostalgia for Ben White on the overlap on Saka and Odegaard in the middle and that triangle, is that got found out eventually, and that's the reason why we kind of dropped off last year. What we need to do is reinvent ourselves, which we started to do, and it feels like in the last, almost since Chelsea, since Odegaard come back really, it felt like we were slowly slipping back into that mode. And that worries me. And again, there's a few things that smell of last year that I think it's all happened at once. Odegaard being back in the team, which, again, like I said, I'm not an Odegaard hater. I really do rate him. I do like him as our captain. But Odegaard being back in the team with a kind of a link-up, very involved centre-forward, like Havertz or Moreno style. Ben White back into that right-back role. And then the other one is missing Gabriel, which we missed for 6 months last year. And all of a sudden, it felt like the end of last year where you just thought, I don't know where the goals are going to come from. The vibe doesn't feel right. Something's wrong. And then this year we started it so differently. And we've kind of eventually ended up in our kind of a default state, which was what we ended last year in. and we need to get these players back, and we need to get them back into the team, and we need to stick to the new guns that we've kind of created. Because Eza makes that mistake. Cash scores. I think in that first half, I'd say Villa edged it for sure. Probably deserved to be ahead. Second half, we came out unbelievable. This was very similar to Sunderland, the Sunderland game where we went 1-0 down, but we got back into it and we looked like the better team. We actually went and got the second there. We went 2-1 and we actually conceded late again, but it was to go from 3 points to 1. This one was to go from 1 point to 0 points, but it was very similar to the Sunderland game. Second half, much better. Trossard on again, a stalwart of someone who we've seen a lot this year and been one of our better players. He comes on at half time. Gyökeres comes on for half time, and we look like a better team. We look like the new team that we know of, and we create a lot of chances, and it becomes a bit of a basketball game. We get our goal, which Trossard gets it. He had a couple chances right before, but Saka was unbelievable on the day. But cuts it back, gets it to Trossard. He scores, and you're thinking, this could go either way now. Like, it really did feel like a basketball game. But we were the ones that were really getting the chances. And it got to about 75, 76, and it felt like they almost ran out of steam. And that's where I would have changed maybe Odegaard for Waneri or something along those lines. They took off Calafiori for Lewis Skelly. There was just a couple things. They took Saka off, which I think was huge. And I think it was because he was on a booking. He was a bit rattled. And if you remember, Saka, a couple of years ago at Villa Park, got into not a lot of trouble, but kind of got stick because if you remember, he was not getting the decisions that he should have been from the linesman. He was getting frustrated. And then I think he was getting absolutely battered to no punishment. And then Mings nearly broke his ankle and didn't even get a card, I believe, or he got a booking, but it should have been a red. And I remember after the game, he said, well, if you don't want me to play in 5 years, keep protecting me the way you are. And he was quite outlandish with it and quite strong, which I agreed. I think he had to speak because he knew, like, I'm going to lose my career. Like, Wilshere and people before him. And the refs didn't like it. And you see it to this day. He wins a lot of fouls, but he also he doesn't win a lot of fouls that he should. And in this game, early on, there was a corner we should definitely have been ours. Shortly after that, there was a moment where, it was in the second half, I think it was, there was a throw-in. It was clearly ours. And even on both instances, the commentators were like, wow, how can they get it that wrong when they're that close? And you saw Saka look at the linesman and say, I don't understand, like, how? Like, every time you give it to them. And he just shakes his head at him. And you think, that stuff is what was getting at him. And then eventually, I think he got a booking. I can't remember exactly what it was for. I think it was dissent after he won the ball really well, and the ref booked it. Didn't book him. He gave a foul, and then he booked him for the way in which he reacted. And I think Arteta could see what was coming there because I think he was routed. I really don't think he likes Villa, just because of the history there. And I think he did the right thing to get him off, even though he was playing one of the better games he's played for a year or so, I'd say. But again, that change of focus definitely changed, and all of a sudden Villa looked like the team more likely, and we didn't. And then it comes down to fine margins because right at the end, there's a moment Hincapié tries to. I think we became quite naive at the end. We were trying to play as a fan, and there's 30 seconds to go. You do this thing where you go, oh, I'm happy with the draw, because they're attacking. And all of a sudden you win the ball, and you're like, go forward, go for the win. So we flip-flop as fans. As a player, you can't be that. You need to understand exactly the stakes and go, you're not thinking we take a draw, we take a win. We just go, what is best for that moment and for time management. And I think there was a couple of times Hincapié tried to get that ball out quickly to Madueke to kind of counter. And as a fan, I'm going, yeah, get the ball out to him. And he kind of does a stray when it goes out for a throw. And all of a sudden, Villa are in our half. And they're more likely to get one more chance. Ironically, they don't create anything. And it goes back to Hincapié, who kind of cleans up nicely around the back of Marlon, and he kind of does that thing where you kind of knock it out wide just to kind of clear it up the line. He takes a heavy touch and he can't get to it, and it goes up for a throw. This is with 10 seconds remaining. They get the ball down, they get into the box, and then there's an absolute scramble. And like I said earlier, I think Odegaard could do a lot better if you watch that clip back. But we have 4 or 5 times to get rid of it. Hincapié could have eliminated all this by going long. Instead, what he's doing is he's extending the play to see if can I get up the line to Madueke and get a goal. And I think that's what you can't think like. Because it's too emotional, it's too fan-like. He needs to be cold there and go, all right, the game's gone here. I just need to get this out and we can walk away with a point. It's a big one. It's a title charge. We can't just afford to do something silly here. And he doesn't. And again, I think if Gabriel and Saliba are fit, I think we win that game. I think at the bare minimum we draw it. And I think at the bare minimum that moment there, Gabriel just clears it. and he just celebrates the fact that we didn't concede at the end there. That is frustrating, but I think overall, I think Hincapié was actually really good, and he's someone that we're starting to see the benefits of him. And luckily, touch wood, he's not injured, and he's going to be able to partner Saliba for the next few weeks until we can get Gabriel back. Because we do not want to see Ben White and Timber, because at the weekend we could generally have Lewis Skelly, Hincapié, Timber at centre back, and then Ben White, and that is the whole back four is completely changed. And I mean, it's fine, when you see other teams and they're missing their right back and they're one of their centre backs, and you think, oof, I fancy us today. I mean, to miss all four, and I know we've got unbelievable backups, but it's still not the best two centre backs in the world, and also probably the best right back in the world, and dare I say, the best left back in the world currently in Calafiori. So when they're that good, it's a real big miss. And then with all that, people like Rice and that, because of that depth being used, he hasn't been able to have rest. Zubimendi looks out on his feet. There's a lot of things like that you just think. The only thing we've done well this year is protect Saka a bit more. He's coming off. We're giving him time off. So he could probably play midweek. He could probably play at the weekend because he's playing 60 minutes here, 30 minutes here. He's not really playing full 90s. So overall, I think obviously it was probably the least I felt pain in a last minute dagger kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? Like, usually that hurts. And it did, but it was one of those you thought, like I mentioned last week, I feel fatigued, let alone the players. There's a lot of games, it's a lot of emotion, and we need to kind of get clear of that little bunched up, kind of like bottlenecked in. We need to get ahead of that, and I think the next one is Bruges, go away from home, professional job, go home to Wolves, get some players back, get that rhythm, and then having 7 days to get ready to go away to Everton. And I mean, Everton won 3-0 yesterday against Nottingham Forest. They've also lost 5-1 at home to Newcastle. So they're an odd side, dare I say, can concede 5, can also score 5. I think Tino Bowery finally got a goal, bless him, but which I started to actually feel for him. But they're an odd side, but if we have our full team and with a 7-day rest, and it's in that new stadium, which is very Emirates-like, it's a nice pitch. The stadium hasn't got the history of Goodison Park. It's not a horrible place to go. It's kind of neutral, almost feels like a neutral ground. They need to get that win, and then they go home. Then after that, I think it's to Brighton and Palace or something along those lines. We have to get these wins. We can't kind of turn our nose up at like Wolves and go, yeah, we'll just go in second gear and win that. No. That has to be balls to the wall, 3-4-0. This is a team that haven't won a game this season, as of this podcast. But it felt painful, but there was also an element of like zoom out 10 from 15. And again, if you win against Wolves, that's 13 from 18. You can start feeling better about it. Because you can also, on the pessimistic side, look at it and go, Sunderland, our last 3 away games was 2 draws and a loss. That's 2 points from 9 in our last 3 away games. That's a worry. We need to start winning these games that you can, because you naturally go to Chelsea and you go to Sunderland, you go to Villa Park, and you kind of think, oof, don't think we can win these. But to win a league, you kind of got to win a couple of them, And we've done it with Burnley. We've gone and won in other places. We just need to get some of the bigger ones done. Places like Everton, because I think they're 5th in the league now. So talk about us playing the top 8 a lot. As the weeks go on, every time we relook at the table, I was talking about we had played the top 7. Of the top 8 minus us, the 7 teams, I think we've done 5 of the 7 teams away from home and 1 at home. If you look at the table now, it's even switched even more to a point where in second place you've got Man City, we played them at home. Villa away from home, done. Chelsea away from home, done. As of next week, Everton away, done. Sunderland away, done. Liverpool away, done. And then there'll be Crystal Palace, which we are playing in 2 weeks, I believe. We haven't played them already. We have played them at home, so it'll be away from home. So of that top 8, we've played them all. Only 2 at home and then 5 away from home. So the fixtures just start to look a bit like maybe we're clearing, because obviously as the season goes on, you start to get an understanding of who actually is good and who isn't. The league table is quite close together. But when you look at the bottom 8, let's say, you got Wolves, we're about to play at home. Burnley, we've played away. West Ham, played at home. Forest at home. Leeds at home. Fulham away, Brentford at home, and we need to play Bournemouth. When you look at that, you realise like, oh, okay, so the bottom half of the table, we need to play them all away from home. The top half, we need to play them at home, which is exactly where you want to be come the end of the season, because you get that atmosphere up, you do all those things at home, and you get those points, and you guarantee those points, because Emirates has been a bit of a fortress, a lot less goals conceded there, nearly won every 100% record minus that City game. We just need to keep going like that. So it was a tough one to take, but not the toughest. It's just about kind of forgetting about it and getting on. As far as this week, we have Bruges on Wednesday, which there'll be a regular podcast before that, which I'll do. The preview will be on the regular podcast for Club Bruges. We'll talk about kind of who we want to play and stuff like that, because that's Wednesday night. And then between then and the weekend, you'll get a Patreon for the Wolves at home at 8 o'clock on Saturday night. And then between there as well, I'll probably review what happened in the Bruges game and any other information that comes that time. So between now and next Saturday, you'll get here on the Patreon this one, the ad-free main show, review Bruges, preview Wolves, and then post Wolves another review. So between now and next Monday, you'll have 5 podcasts in 7 days. So that's why the Patreon is well worth it. But if you're just on the main one, obviously just enjoy that. Give us a 5-star review and all those kind of things on Gunners R Us. We will talk to you on Wednesday for Gunners R Us. Please check us out. Bye bye.